Imagine standing on the edge of a changing world where the maps of power are being redrawn and the rules of success no longer belong to the old giants. For years, everyone believed that South Asia's story began and ended with one nation. But what if I told you that story is about to change? There's a quiet shift happening. Not in the headlines, but in the hearts and minds of millions. A new generation is rising, connected by ideas, not borders. They are building, creating, dreaming, and their voices are coming from a place the world has long overlooked. This is not about competition. It's about evolution. It's about a nation that the world underestimated, learning how to turn struggle into strength and position into power. Tonight, I want you to look beyond what the numbers say and listen to what the future is whispering. Because when technology, youth, and geography meet at the right moment, miracles don't just happen, they are engineered. The question is no longer, and can Pakistan rise? The real question is, what happens when it does? So stay with me till the end of this journey. Because by the time we finish, you'll see not just a new chapter in South Asia's story, but perhaps the beginning of a global transformation that no one saw coming. The global economic balance is undergoing a subtle but profound transformation. For years, India was seen as the undisputed growth engine of South Asia, the IT hub, the outsourcing capital, and the emerging consumer superpower. Its demographic advantage, English-speaking workforce, and early integration into Western digital markets gave it a head start in the 2000s and 2010s. Global corporations built their South Asian strategies around India, assuming it would remain the region's primary success story for decades. But history shows that dominance in emerging markets is rarely permanent. As economic models evolve and global conditions shift, the center of gravity often moves from one hub to another. Today, we are witnessing the early signs of a multipolar South Asia, a region no longer defined by a single economic powerhouse. The traditional India-centric narrative is beginning to fragment as new opportunities arise in neighboring economies, particularly Pakistan. This change is driven by several intersecting trends: digital diffusion, shifting trade corridors, and the democratization of innovation. Technology has become more accessible, and infrastructure projects like CPEC have connected previously isolated markets to global routes. The result is a more balanced regional ecosystem, where multiple countries can grow simultaneously rather than depending on one dominant player. For Pakistan, this shift represents both a challenge and a remarkable opportunity. The country sits at the crossroads of Asia's major economic zones, linking the Middle East's energy wealth, China's industrial depth, and Central Asia's emerging resources. As global investors look to diversify risk beyond single count, right dependencies, Pakistan's location, and reform-driven markets are gaining quiet attention. The momentum may be gradual, but the direction is clear. South Asia's growth story is no longer linear. It is spreading outward, powered by connectivity and innovation rather than concentration and outsourcing. The decline of a single-nation growth monopoly opens the door for regional collaboration and new forms of competition. South Asia's future will depend on networks, not borders, on innovation ecosystems, not bureaucratic hierarchies. While India will continue to play a major role, the assumption that its rise excludes others is being challenged by new realities. In this emerging order, Pakistan has the potential to evolve into a dynamic participant, a bridge between markets rather than a follower of regional trends. This is the essence of the transformation reshaping the South Asian economic landscape. For nearly 2 decades, the foundation of India's economic story rested on predictable growth engines, outsourcing, service exports, and domestic consumption. These sectors created a sense of linear progress. More global clients meant more jobs, more income, and therefore more spending. However, The global economy is no longer operating under the same rules that fueled this rise. Automation, artificial intelligence, and the reshoring of industries back to Western economies are disrupting the traditional outsourcing model that once made India the office of the world. The global service demand is shifting from low-cost labor to high-skill innovation, where adaptability, design, and technological integration matter more than population size or labor cost. This new reality exposes the fragility of linear growth models. Economic systems built on one-dimensional advantages, such as cheap labor or service outsourcing, struggle when technology transforms the rules of competition. As AI begins to handle customer service, software development, and logistics management, key value now lies in innovation-driven manufacturing, digital entrepreneurship, and regional trade integration. Countries that can quickly pivot toward adaptive tech-integrated industries will define the next wave of growth in Asia. This is where Pakistan's potential becomes increasingly relevant. Pakistan's manufacturing sector, though underdeveloped compared to India's, holds the advantage of flexibility. It can leapfrog into modern automated systems without the burden of legacy infrastructure. With increasing Chinese investment through CPEC and a growing domestic digital market, Pakistan has the ability to integrate smart manufacturing, renewable energy, and logistics technology into one cohesive framework. This adaptability contrasts sharply with India's more established but rigid economic structure, which may find it harder to reinvent itself at scale. Furthermore, the geopolitical trend toward de-globalization, where nations prioritize regional supply chains over global dependencies, creates a new opening. Pakistan's position at the intersection of Asia, the Middle East, and Europe allows it to become a logistical and production bridge in this fragmented world economy. In a future where resilience and regional connectivity matter more than scale alone, Pakistan's capacity to adopt flexible, export-oriented, and digitally enhanced growth could redefine its regional status. The next decade will not reward those who simply grow bigger, but those who evolve faster, and Pakistan stands on the threshold of that transformation. Pakistan stands at a crucial demographic and technological crossroads, where its youth and digital momentum could reshape its economic destiny. With nearly 64% of its population under the age of 30, the nation possesses one of the youngest workforces in the region. This is not just a statistic. It represents a vast reservoir of creativity, ambition, and digital fluency, unlike older industrial economies burdened by aging populations. Pakistan's youth are entering a global economy that is increasingly defined by innovation, not infrastructure. The rise of smartphones, affordable internet access, and social media platforms has given young Pakistanis tools that earlier generations never had: direct access to markets, investors, and global audiences. Over the last few years, a quiet revolution has been taking shape within Pakistan's digital economy. Startups such as Airlift, Bazaar, and SataPay have challenged long-standing inefficiencies in logistics, retail, and finance. These ventures have proven that with the right environment, Pakistani entrepreneurs can build globally competitive solutions for local problems. What makes this shift particularly significant is that it is not limited to the urban elite. Technology is spreading deeper into small towns and rural communities, connecting previously invisible markets to the digital grid. This diffusion of innovation signals a broader social and economic awakening. Demographic pressure into productive energy, its challenges into platforms for innovation, and its population size into a strategic digital advantage capable of reshaping the balance of opportunity across South Asia. Pakistan's geography has always been its greatest inheritance, but for decades it remained an underutilized advantage. Today, however, the dynamics of global trade and energy are shifting in ways that make Pakistan's location more valuable than ever before. Sitting at the intersection of South Asia, Central Asia, the Middle East, and Western China, Pakistan occupies one of the most strategic positions on the world map. It connects the warm waters of the Arabian Sea to the heart of Asia, offering the shortest trade routes between China and the Gulf, between Central Asian energy fields and global markets, and between European investors and Asian consumers. This geography, once considered a challenge to manage, is now evolving into an opportunity to lead. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, or CPEC, is at the core of this transformation. Initially viewed as an infrastructure and investment project, CPEC has matured into something more strategic, a network that can redefine the flow of goods, energy, and technology across continents. Gwadar port, located near the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz, is emerging as a key node in this system. It is not merely a shipping port. It represents Pakistan's entry into a global trade network that can connect Europe, Africa, and Asia through sustainable logistics and smart infrastructure. The ripple effect of such connectivity could turn Pakistan into a trade and energy hub, a role that few other regional nations are equipped to perform. For Europe, this development holds particular significance. As the European Union seeks to diversify its trade partners and reduce dependence on single-route supply chains, Pakistan's corridors could become vital for energy access, green logistics, and digital trade routes linking the East and West. Investments in renewable energy, smart ports, and sustainable transport in Pakistan could align with Europe's own vision of a green economic transition. This cooperation would not only strengthen Pakistan's infrastructure, but also help stabilize regional trade systems that Europe depends upon. Geopolitically, Pakistan's position allows it to serve as a balancing link between major powers: China, the Gulf states, Central Asia, and Western investors. By managing these relationships with strategic neutrality and long-term economic vision, Pakistan can transform from a frontier state into a global connector. In a world that values connectivity over isolation, Pakistan's geography may soon become the foundation of its economic renaissance. India's rapid economic growth over the past 2 decades has often been celebrated as one of the great success stories of the developing world. Yet behind the impressive GDP figures lies a series of structural weaknesses that are beginning to challenge the narrative of unstoppable progress. Economic growth, when concentrated in a few sectors and regions, tends to create imbalances that eventually become self-limiting. In India's case, the benefits of development have largely flowed to urban elites and a handful of industrial hubs, leaving vast rural populations and underdeveloped regions lagging behind. This inequality has deepened social divides, strained public services, and limited the broad-based consumer strength required for sustainable economic momentum. Another major constraint lies in over-centralization. Decision-making in India remains heavily concentrated in a few political and bureaucratic centers, leading to uneven policy implementation and slower adaptation to global changes. Innovation and entrepreneurship thrive on flexibility and decentralization, yet India's complex regulatory systems often stifle small and medium enterprises while favoring established corporations. This imbalance restricts the economy. Ability to evolve quickly in response to technological disruption or market volatility. In contrast, smaller economies like Pakistan have the opportunity to design more agile policy frameworks using lessons from their neighbors' successes and shortcomings. Energy dependency represents an additional vulnerability. India imports the majority of its oil and relies heavily on coal, exposing it to external price shocks and climate-related pressures. As the world transitions toward renewable and sustainable energy systems, economies that fail to diversify their energy mix risk falling behind in global competitiveness. Pakistan, though also an importer, has begun to explore renewable energy corridors linked to CPEC and Middle Eastern partners. If managed well, this diversification could provide it with greater long-term resilience. AL increasingly seeks diversified, reform-oriented markets rather than single-nation dependencies. As India's growth narrative matures and faces internal bottlenecks, investors are turning to emerging frontiers, where returns are tied to innovation, not inertia. Pakistan, if it maintains macroeconomic discipline, improves governance, and strengthens its digital infrastructure, could become one of those frontiers. The end of India's uncontested dominance would not mark decline for the region, but the rise of a more balanced South Asian growth story, one that includes Pakistan as a central and dynamic participant. The new economic landscape of Asia is no longer defined by zero-sum rivalries or singular dominance. The coming decade is about interdependence, where nations rise not by overpowering others, but by integrating their strengths into shared systems of innovation, trade, and sustainability. In this evolving equation, Pakistan's future potential lies not in competing with India or China, but in connecting them. Its geography, demography, and emerging digital ecosystem give it the capacity to act as a bridge between East and West, between producers and consumers, and between energy suppliers and manufacturing markets. This is the essence of the new Asian paradigm: collaboration over competition. Pakistan's participation in initiatives like the Belt and Road and its partnerships with the Gulf states, Central Asia, and even Europe position it to play a facilitative role in regional trade flows. The nation can provide logistics, infrastructure, and digital connectivity that enable rather than compete. In a time when economic fragmentation threatens global stability, countries that offer linkage and reliability will gain influence far beyond their size. By fostering regional integration through energy pipelines, trade corridors, and digital infrastructure, Pakistan could redefine its global image from a reactive state to a proactive connector. Moreover, the world economic centers are becoming more fluid. The West is looking east for new partners. China is seeking reliable intermediaries for its exports. And the Middle East is diversifying its investments into technology and manufacturing. This convergence creates a unique opening for Pakistan to present itself as a neutral facilitator of commerce, ideas, and sustainability projects. Europe, in particular, values economic predictability and environmental responsibility, two areas where Pakistan can align its reforms to attract long-term collaboration rather than short-term aid. The defining characteristic of future economic powers will not be the size of their economies, but the versatility of their partnerships. Nations that can connect supply chains, manage resources efficiently, and maintain balanced diplomacy will shape the next phase of globalization. Pakistan's rise depends on embracing this shift by building credibility, promoting transparent governance, and encouraging innovation. Dr. Ivan growth. In doing so, it can evolve from a nation defined by its challenges into one defined by its capacity to unite regions, economies, and ambitions within a shared framework of sustainable prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, as we look toward the coming decade, one truth becomes unmistakably clear. The global order is no longer linear. The age of single-nation dominance is fading, replaced by a dynamic era of shared innovation and interconnected progress. South Asia, once viewed through a narrow lens, is entering a period of transformation where new possibilities are emerging from unexpected places. Pakistan, with its strategic geography, youthful energy, and growing digital strength, stands at the threshold of this transformation. The narrative of the future will not be written by the largest economies alone, but by those who adapt, connect, and evolve. The rise of technology, the redirection of trade routes, and the demand for sustainable partnerships have opened doors for nations ready to redefine their purpose. Pakistan's role in this story is not to replace India or to chase old benchmarks, but to craft a new model, one rooted in resilience, creativity, and cooperation. This journey will not be without challenges. Every transformation begins with uncertainty. But as history shows, the countries that dare to rethink their position in the world are the ones that ultimately lead it. The question is no longer whether Pakistan can rise. It is whether the world is ready to see it differently. To all those listening, policymakers, entrepreneurs, dreamers, and global partners, the next chapter belongs to those who build bridges instead of walls, who see opportunity in connection rather than competition. May we step into this new decade with clarity, courage, and collaboration. Thank you for your time, your attention, and your belief in the power of change. And to Pakistan, and to every nation striving to redefine its place in a changing world, good luck. On your journey ahead, the future is waiting, and it favors the brave.